Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on whereabouts in the world you are today. Um, Welcome to our event on evaluating the impact of the International Standard for Education 2021 and also planning for ISE 2027. My name is Professor Ian Bodley. I was the lead of the project that we're going to be looking at the findings from today. But we're going to be doing more than that as well. If you've seen the programme, you'll see that we're also going to be very much future focused and looking at how our findings relate to ISE 2027 and also trying to help organisations plan for that transition to 2027. So I'm very excited today about the lineup that we've got, and I'll look at that in a moment. But just in terms of the event objectives, there are four main things that we wanted to do today. So our research project that I just mentioned was funded in 2022, and I guess consistent with one of the key elements of the ISE itself. The reason this project was funded was because WADA wanted to evaluate the impact of their own policy, the International Standard for Education, in the same way that education programs are now hopefully being evaluated. So we took on this project to conduct this evaluation of the impact of the international standard, and we'll be presenting some of the findings from that today in our session that were a little bit later on. But before that, we've got the keynote presentation from Amanda Hudson, which will be talking about the importance of this project for WADA and the reason why they're funding research such as this. Another objective was to facilitate the translation of research findings into clean sport anti-doping education. And very much for us, this was a very important element of the project from the outset. So events such as this were planned in to disseminate the findings right from the outset. So we're very excited to see so many people joining today from across the globe. And we've got over 260 registrations for today's event and really good global spread on that. So very happy with that. So talking about that translation to education, we're very much focused on that in the practitioner panel, which will be a little bit later on in the schedule. Thirdly, we wanted to highlight the key role of social science research for the development of policy, so clean sport anti-doping education policy. And clearly, if you look at the plans for WADA and the policy, this is very important, the role of social science research. So that will be very much highlighted in the session at the keynote presentation of Tony Cunningham, which is in the schedule for today as well. So just to highlight some of the importance of social science research and the way in which research has been impacted by WADA's funding. We've done been involved in some recent reviews, and there are around 250 to 300 pieces of social science research that are relevant to the field now, that are potentially going to inform the education that's delivered. And then finally, to promote understanding of the upcoming changes to the ISE. So, what are some of the main changes for ISE 2027, and debating some of the mechanisms and the support that could be in place to help facilitate that implementation. So obviously we've got the practitioner panel, which will be very much focused on that, but we've also got the keynote presentation by Carrie Dawson, which will highlight some of those important changes that we need to be aware of. So just before we get into the schedule for today, there's a couple of things I just want to highlight in terms of the project aims and objectives. When we present the findings today, you'll see that we separate them into work package 1 and work package 2, and that's very much how we structured the research project. So work package 1 was very much at the global level. We were using data from the CCQ, which all anti-doping organisations participate in, and primarily within that we were looking at how anti-doping and clean sport education has changed following the implementation of the ISE. So using data from before and after the implementation to look at where we can see changes, but also within that where we can see differences between ADOs of different size and funding levels, so from tiers 1 to 4. Whereas in work package 2, it's a much more sort of nuanced and closer look at the implementation and working directly with 6 organisations to look at how they responded to the ISE, where they found challenges in terms of implementation, but also some of the mechanisms that have helped them successfully implement it as well. But what we're also doing with that, because we're working with organisations of different size and scale, we can again look at those differences for organisations that have different capacities, but also different remits within that. So that's Work Package 2. So in terms of the methods, Work Package 1 is primarily focused on TCQ responses, but also the education plans and evaluation reports provided by ADOs and analysing quantitatively TCQ responses and doing a qualitative document analysis of those education plans and evaluation reports for Work Package 1. For Work Package 2, it's very much a qualitative focus, focusing on interviews with athletes and athlete support personnel who are receiving education, but also primarily interviews with education staff from anti-doping organisations across the globe. So a very good global representation across those 6 organisations as well. So just in terms of the schedule, I'm not going to go through all of the schedule here. It's just to highlight that for some of the sessions, we will have questions available. So if you look on the right-hand side here, you can see where we have got questions available. For the research project findings, we haven't got time for questions in the actual sessions, but we're happy to accept questions. So there's question and answer functionality within the website. So you can pose your questions in there. We will answer those offline for the research project findings. For the later sessions where we have got questions, we'll have a moderator who's receiving those questions live, and then we'll be putting those to either Tony in the keynote presentation or to the panel in the subsequent panel discussions when we've got the questions within there as well. So as you see there, I think my 5 minutes introduction is up. So we're due to move on to our first keynote presentation, which will be delivered by Amanda Hudson, who is Director of Education at WADA, a role that she's held since August 2019. She's got over 20 years of experience in sport and anti-doping, and Amanda was previously the Head of Education at UCAD here in the UK. She led the development there of strategic education initiatives aimed at protecting clean sport and supporting athletes. Whereas at WADA, she now oversees the Global Education Agenda, Social Science Research Grant Programme and the ADO Capability Programme, including the GLDF Programme and Code Implementation Support Programme. So Amanda is known for her strategic leadership and commitment of athlete integrity, and Amanda plays a pivotal role in shaping the future of anti-doping education worldwide. So we're really looking forward to hearing what Amanda has to say in terms of the importance of this project and WADA's funding for it. Thank you.